The call came just after the closing bell rang at the stock exchange. Jonathan Mills, prominent investment banker and hedge fund manager, had been found dead in his high-rise office. Apparently a suicide jump from his balcony. A tragic end for someone so young and successful. But my instincts said to dig deeper. I arrived on scene and made my way to the top-floor corner office of Mills Capital. The sleek oak-paneled reception area stood empty, Mills' stunning view of the city skyline now marred by crime scene tape marking his deadly plunge. CSIs were already processing the office, while the body was removed via an emergency access stairwell. I was briefed on the basics. Employees heard a loud thud outside during their evening work wrap-up. They found Mills dead on the pavement 30 stories below. No signs of foul play or struggle inside the locked office. Mills had it all: fame, fortune, respect. At just 35 he reached the pinnacle as a golden boy banker who could do no wrong. His meteoric success captivated Wall Street and investors alike. On the surface, his world seemed perfect. But something felt off about this master of the universe suddenly taking his own life. My gut said this was no suicide. And I've learned to trust my gut. I started by interviewing Mills' inner circle, hoping for insights into his final days. His business partner, Terrence Caldwell, seemed genuinely shocked, saying Mills had given no indication of personal problems or depression. Coworkers described him as ambitious and driven, completely devoted to the firm. He had no family or close friends to speak of, married to the job. Mills never married, claiming he didn't have time for it given his workload. He had few hobbies beyond fine dining and collecting luxury watches. Work was his whole life, subordinates said. No one could pinpoint any recent trauma or reason for him to suddenly take this tragic leap. No obvious holes emerged in that story yet. But digging through Mills' office trash told another tale: crumpled memos and shredded documents related to some questionable transactions. Pieces hinted at Swiss bank accounts, shell companies, inflated valuations, enough to raise suspicions of financial misconduct. My first real lead. Further digging revealed the immense scope of Mills' dealings. He managed over $10 billion for elite clientele worldwide through hedge funds and ventures investing in tech startups, real estate, emerging markets. Yet his personal worth seemed lower than expected for someone so successful. Just a couple million in assets registered under his name. Strange, considering the massive fees he must have been collecting. Even more strange were the huge sums that passed through offshore accounts and layered shell companies tied to him. Many directed to a nebulous firm called Nova Partners that seemed to provide consulting services, but little else was known about it. Shadowy finances and opaque corporate structures were huge red flags. Something illegitimate was definitely taking place here, obscured beneath complex webs of transactions spanning the globe. I needed help unraveling it all. Confidential informants then pointed me towards rumors of Mills' firm selling access to lucrative IPO stock shares in exchange for under-the-table compensation. A practice called spinning that was illegal but suspected among elite trading houses to benefit their most favored clients. Too common to draw much regulatory scrutiny without solid evidence. But if true, this could implicate Mills in mass fraud. That's when the SEC whistleblower emerged. An anonymous email arrived arranging a secret meeting with information to share. At the rendezvous point, a nervous man in glasses and a ball cap passed me reams of documents detailing years of spinning deals and insider trades made by Mills and others at his firm. Concrete proof of criminal fraud worth untold millions. Jackpot. This insider turned over the goods, emails explicitly detailing how Mills orchestrated the schemes, allocated hot new stocks, and calculated the immense illicit profits. It showed how they funneled proceeds through Nova Partners to eventually exit back into legitimate personal and business accounts, layering the money trails. A perfect white-collar crime ring hidden beneath legitimacy. Until mistakes started piling up. Greedy overreach sent Mills' ventures veering into dangerous realms like crypto pump and dumps. Anonymous offshore betting syndicates provided endless hot money, but certain bets turned toxic. Before long, the enterprise required massive new spinning deals and sketchier outside finance to cover burgeoning obligations. It became a high-stakes house of cards. Time was running out. Powerful people stood to lose everything if Mills' activities came to light. But he became increasingly brazen to generate the fortunes demanded. The whistleblower even hinted Mills dabbled with Russian oligarchs, Caribbean cartels, terrorist financing, anything to keep the money flowing. His web was global and bursting at the seams. It was only a matter of time before it all collapsed. Unless someone stopped that from happening first. Armed with damning evidence, I confronted Mills' inner circle with the truth, hoping to get someone to flip against him. His deputies played dumb, but eventually one broke under pressure. His old Harvard classmate turned accomplice Arnie Vail. Granted immunity for cooperation, Vail gave up everything. The depth of corruption was stunning. For over a decade, Mills orchestrated an elaborate network of illegal deals, insider trades, and kickback schemes, all smoothed over by his polished image. Vail described Swiss bank trips to check on their burgeoning secret funds tucked away for when Mills eventually cashed out. All while concealing losses and cooking the books. Arnie didn't know all the major players involved, just that Mills bragged of having high-level politicians, foreign VIPs, and intelligence assets in his pocket. Top-tier clients brought in by promises of massive profits with discretion. It seemed nobody was in a position to hold Mills accountable. Until it all went wrong. With their financial engineering empire at risk of crumbling, Arnie suspected Mills turned to one shady lifeline too many. My informant confirmed what I feared. Mills had tangled with William Bradley, CEO of the powerful investment firm where Mills once worked before his meteoric rise. Bradley secretly bankrolled Mills' early ventures, taking big cuts of their profits. In return, Mills funneled risky trades to him that paid off handsomely, knowing Bradley could use his leverage to manipulate markets in his favor. A mutually beneficial, but highly illegal, partnership. But now Bradley realized the monster he created had become too reckless. If Mills went down, the splash damage could tarnish Bradley and the elite cadre he represented. So he cut ties and abandoned Mills to contain the growing disaster. My whistleblower hinted there may have even been threats to force Mills' compliance. Bradley had motive and means to take him out if he became a liability. As his former mentor, he knew Mills' operations inside and out. Taking control of such a valuable criminal infrastructure would be an enticing prospect for someone ruthless enough. Cornering Bradley would require delicacy. His tentacles reached across law enforcement, politics, and finance. Moving incautiously risked tipping him off or provoking dangerous backlash. I had to methodically build evidence he was personally involved in Mills' schemes or murder. Weeks of discreet surveillance on Bradley revealed casinos, clubs, and other sites where he held court and conducted business. I photographed meetings between him and known figures linked to Mills. Wiretaps picked up coded exchanges suggesting he was moving to cover his tracks. It all indicated Bradley sought to conceal his links before scandal tarnished his sterling reputation. Meanwhile, hidden tracking devices and hacked accounts traced the flow of money from Mills into proxies Bradley controlled. Past payoffs allowed me to penetrate the anonymity and connect the dots. We now had solid proof of Bradley's deep role orchestrating the criminal enterprise. His hands were dirty and he knew it. That raised the stakes for him to silence Mills permanently. My informant revealed Mills threatened to expose Bradley if he didn't bail out his crumbling empire. That made Mills too dangerous to live. I just needed evidence of the plot. My chance came at an underground gambling den for New York's political and financial elite. Sources indicated Bradley wanted to discuss business there discreetly. Posing as cartel muscle shaking down the game let me get close enough to overhear. It became clear Bradley hired contract killers to eliminate the Mills problem under guise of suicide before he implicated anyone. His arrogant boasting confirmed it. Confronted with the evidence, Bradley realized his freedom and legacy were on the line. We struck a deal: 30 years in minimum security in exchange for full cooperation, bringing down the criminal conspiracy he fronted. Without his fortune and protection, Mills' network collapsed. Dozens of elite figures fell in the ensuing scandal. Bradley sacrificed pawns to save himself, but couldn't evade some justice for his sins. So in the end, Mills' death exposed mass wrongdoing flourishing in the dark. The tragic fall of a lone wealthy banker revealed how systemic corruption infested the highest echelons of the finance world. Things long hidden came to light. But too late for Mills himself. He made tragic choices twisted by greed, and met an unjust fate. The depths people sink to for wealth and power still horrify me. How money poisons even good souls. Mills certainly bears blame, but fell prey to a broader, rigged game that rewards fraud and betrayal at the top. A game Bradley mastered. True justice remains elusive when those with enough money and influence make their own rules. But we peeled back an important layer of deception and sent warning ripples to others in the shadows. No one is untouchable. Truth finds a way, eventually. The long arm of justice may seem slow and soft until it isn't.